So I mean, my story, and let's do 20 seconds. That's fair. I'm just a mad, crazy researcher, like I have been for a long period of time, and I just know how to research on the internet better than most people and think critically and try and find the truth, because I only care about the truth. And it's so funny how people get caught up in confirmation bias so much in our world now with politics and everything. And I've just had to really, really audit myself and my beliefs, because have you read the book Sapiens before?
No, I haven't.
Highly recommend it. He just basically talks about human beings tell stories to each other. And Neanderthals couldn't really tell stories based off their brains and what we know. And it's probably why we beat them out. Because when we tell stories with each other, like cryptocurrency is a story, MSC is a story, everything's just a story. Religion's a story, right? It's all just a story. And so we tell stories to ourselves in our own brain. Think about it, like it's part of your identity. But if you can audit the stories that you're saying to yourself, and if they're actually like a limiting story, a limiting belief, something that's actually holding you back, that's how you can really improve. And I've just realized my diet and lifestyle has just gotten out of control in the last few years. So we just basically changed it. And most people wouldn't say I had 30 pounds to lose 3 months ago. And I didn't really think that I did either. I just started living healthier. And now I'm down to my sophomore year high school wrestling weight. It's like crazy. And forget that, I just feel better. And with looking at the MSCs, just looking at the science, everything I know about how the body works and how it heals, this makes absolute perfect sense.
Otherwise, you get the white blood cells going in and they cause fibrosis.
Right.
And once that scarring's taken place, like, it can't repair back to what it was. I mean, it's just so basic understanding. And, the bigger you get, the older you get bone maturity, boom, no more capillaries. I mean, you still have them, but like, it's like 90%, and that's where the stem cells hang out. So how are you expect to still recover like you did? It doesn't make sense.
And a couple of things, Wharton's talked about in his lectures and in his book, and I've only read, his mainstream or whatever, the Stem Cells Rising Tide book is, talk to any surgeon. They'll want to operate on a younger person rather than an older person because they have less capillaries and it's harder for them to heal, and there's much higher percentages of things going wrong. And then the other thing is, he talked about how there's 4 different types of white blood cells your immune system creates. One of those blood cells is specifically for allergies. And I've had allergies since I was very young. Been allergic to cats, dogs, dust, pollens.
Yeah.
I'm sure that one type of white blood cell, I can't remember the name of it, is either underproducing or defective in the ones that they are producing, or a combination of both, which is why I have allergies. And I'm not expecting anything, but with these MSCs, potentially, even for a short term of a few months or a year, I could maybe have my allergies improve. Just from my diet, I've noticed I've been way, way less allergic to dust, pollens, and cats and dogs. I love animals. I'll walk up to any cat or dog, right? And just since I've been doing this, it's been affecting me less. I think that my immune system is producing more of that white blood cell to help me with my allergies. So
that's cool.
It's crazy all the benefits that can arise from this.
Did Doc go over like the certificate of the stem cells with you, just to kind of show that?
She did, and we have that on video.
Great.
Yeah. What else did we talk about in that one?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
We talked about. Well, we can watch the video. I recorded it.
Yeah, let's go back. No, that's great.
But it's good to see it's nice, I think, for people to see that all the stem cells are tested, and exactly what your batch has, which is nice.
The good and bad of Mexico is stem cells aren't regulated here.
Right.
And that's awesome because we can do things, but it's also, the bad side of things, because you can get people, not doing things right, not getting the right things. Like, I know one lab that, they literally have, created their own, they've taken what the certificate from COFEPRIS, the regulatory board, looks like,
right,
and they've made up, a fake stem cell certificate. It doesn't exist.
And there's really no regulatory body that's going to come in and step in.
And it's so funny, so they spread this, fake news to all these other doctors,
right.
And, like you said about the different biases, again, a lot of bureaucracy, but it's also tough to find here because they don't always get things up online right away, all those things. So
right.
They're putting out that, they've got this certification, but then you don't find a website for them. You go to the address where the lab's supposed to be, and it's not there. Where these guys, it's actually, I found these guys trying to find that other lab, and CryoVida, it turns out they've been doing it for 16 years.
Right.
The doctor just posted the second award from the Mexican Senate for excellence in academia. He's mainly just doing research now. He's got the team at the lab making all that, and they just keep pushing it. And he's working really hard with the legislatures, different programs to try and get some regulations in place. But that's why they have to third-party test it, because
for sure.
Otherwise, it's the lab can tell you, oh, it's A+ stuff all day long.
Exactly.
Who's verifying them? So at least this way you can reach out to that other lab and say, hey, did you really check this? Gives you that at least assurance.
And that's a really good point. We almost committed to one in New Hampshire that's doing the allogenic, which is what we're doing here from outside the body, and it was Wharton's jelly derived umbilical cord from healthy mothers, and they came from a birthing center in Fort Lauderdale, and then they get shipped off to Salt Lake City where they're cryogenically stored, from my research understanding. And then they have a partnership with the University of Utah where they're the third party.
Mm-hmm.
But we all know, even with that things can happen. People can get paid off over time as businesses grow. So everybody just needs to do their own research and think critically. And I'm sitting right here because I did enough research with my beautiful wife and my family where I just kind of felt all right, the risk is very low and the reward is much higher, so I'm going to do this. But everybody has different beliefs and has to come to different conclusions,
we're not the right place for everyone. We're the first to tell you that. Had a lot of people contact us about cancer and things, and just cancer is a tricky one. I tell them all to go to Dr. Riordan. He's been dealing with cancer for decades. It's that's your life. Most of those people, it's go to the guy who's been doing it for the longest and knows what he's doing. We're not going to guess and check with something like that.
Right.
It's just not worth it. Our lab, they've worked with people post radiation therapy or post chemo, because the stem cells go in and repair all that inflammation and damage.
Right.
But even they haven't tried to use it for cancer. There's just, it's too risky even for them. It's and the last thing you want to do is get blamed for something that was going to happen anyway.
For sure.
It's a tricky one.
But from my research, and everybody do your own research, the MSCs, especially when they're derived from umbilical cords, think about it. This is what is helping the mother heal, and this is what is making a healthy baby. And these are only healthy. They test in the lab for all the viruses, HIV, all the hepatitis, and more. This probably isn't going to hurt you. And actually, I'll say it's definitely not going to hurt you if it's done right, because there's just been too many people. I learned, I think it was in the Wharton's book, they even been using MSCs for organ transplants for literally decades, because when you're putting an organ from somebody else into somebody else's body, your immune system will recognize that as a foreign invader. So because these MSCs are so non-foreign, because they lack a molecule that tells your immune system it's foreign, they actually help the body accept that organ. And I'm sure they're doing many, many other great things in there too that these doctors probably haven't fully understood.
And Riordan's used his for graft versus host disease, which is exactly that. And that's what they use the bone marrow stem cells from in surgeries.
And just regarding cancer, again, this is my personal belief from my research. These MSCs are shown to be anti-tumorigenic, meaning that they destroy tumors as part of their function. So I think that personally, this is just my opinion, I think they'll definitely help with cancer. But there just needs to be more research, and there's a lot of risk that these clinics, like Josh's clinic, Dream Body Clinic, and all the other companies associated, they just don't want to take that risk. But if you really have stage 3, stage 4 cancer and you're looking for options, I personally think that this is where I would go as an option to explore.
Yeah, there was, in Riordan's book, he talks a lot about how they treated, they had to do it's an exemption with the FDA, the 2 kids with the muscular dystrophy, so they had to test this MSCs on different rats and different animals that had tumors, and it always got rid
It
of
just
the
destroys
tumors.
those tumors like very quickly.
Yeah, his theory on cancer is interesting, that he believes it's just chronic inflammation. Your body finally gives up, and the last ditch effort is to create a tumor. So I went to a conference with it's Dr. Correa, Carrea of University of Miami. He's doing some amazing research, but he did point out, I mean, he advised the whole room full of doctors. He's like, I don't think you should be treating cancer yet. He goes, the research isn't there yet. It's like, I'm not trying to say that it won't work or that it doesn't work,
right?
Unless you're going to do it under really controlled, circumstances or a study.
Yeah.
It's just, again, it's that hope factor and the risk reward. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of complexity to it. So.
And I understand why he has to say that. He has the title. He's invested his entire life and his degree and his whole livelihood. And at this point in time with the mainstream science, he has to say that up on this stage. But I don't have those titles. And personally, from what I've seen, I would say this isn't going to hurt you, MSCs. From everything that I've seen and all the data and the research has shown that, there's like literally been no negative side effects. Maybe some like 24-hour acute inflammation. That's not really a side effect that's negative long term. It's not only not really, it isn't. It isn't a long-term side effect. And if you have the money and if you're desperate, this is definitely something to do, even if you're not desperate. I mean, I'm not desperate. I'm sitting here doing it for health purposes and to get better.
It's preventative. I mean, you just look at it like you're going to end up with something when you get older.
Right.
And almost everyone's going to get arthritis. You're going to have osteoporosis, like just things start to fall apart. And the younger you are, I mean, you said what, you're 33, right?
Yeah.
I'm 35, like, I want to look and feel 35 as long as I can.
Take me back to 21, please.
Right.
I'm just saying this from the health changes that I've made and Lauren as well in the last 12 weeks. I just feel like I'm playing with house money right now because I seriously look so much younger, more like I did in my mid to early 20s, and I feel so much better, and certain things in my body have been healing just from doing like 20 hours a day intermittent fasting, kind of a keto diet, drastically limiting sugar and cutting out alcohol. I think I've had like 3 beers in the last 12 months. Like sometimes I haven't even finished that beer. I'm just done. It's just not worth it anymore.
Well, in alcohol, they always want to tell you, oh, you're manly because you're drinking beer, these
right.
things. But it turns out, I actually learned this extra component to it, but I didn't know that cigarettes actually boost your testosterone.
Wow.
Beer lowers your testosterone,
For
right?
sure.
So I had no idea of this, but it was like they were talking about, the old guys, you think like Sinatra, John Wayne, these guys. I mean, it was probably why they had higher testosterone levels, where today guys have lower testosterone levels than ever before.
Right.
And alcohol is one of the key factors. Every beer or glass of wine or shot of alcohol shuts down your natural production of testosterone for an hour.
Yep.
Like you go back to like when I was in college, you drink as many as you can. And
Oh my God.
like,
I think about my memories of how much alcohol I've drank. Like it's I can't even think about it because I'm not like I don't have a depression type personality. But when I think about it, I was like, I've done so much damage to my body, and I'm just done. I'm done taking the hammer and hitting my foot.
So drinking alcohol makes you less manly. You've been sold a lie again. On a hormonal balance situation, you're less manly if you're drinking all the time. It's tough to deal with, but it's the truth.
I've seen in the last 12 weeks, I've seen my testosterone skyrocket, like absolutely skyrocket, and that's one of the reasons I feel so much better and all these things. I've read studies on how they've taken men, and big studies of hundreds of men. It'd be better if it was thousands. They followed them for 2 decades, and they've shown that prostate cancer is early stage and very, very tied into male pattern baldness. And this is just a symptom of like something that's not supposed to be happening, especially at my age. And you see it so much more in men who are younger. And just from my own research, it's men who typically are living more of the SAD diet, the standard American diet, and drinking alcohol like regularly. And it's legal and it's socially acceptable, but it's clearly just not good for you at all.
Yeah. No, it adds up. I mean, the worst blood work I've seen in 5 years was a guy over in Eastern Oregon, you know, good old boy, it's all desert out there, and he installs these giant solar panel farms.
Oh, cool.
And so he's like, you know, hardworking guy. He doesn't come across like he'd be like unhealthy, wasn't out of shape.
Right.
At least not that out of shape.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got his blood work, we're like, hey, we need to talk.
You're dying.
Like, yeah, you need to stop drinking. Like, how much are you drinking? And he's like, I don't drink. I'm like, no, come on. Like, you've got like cirrhosis basically. Like,
right.
you know, like your liver's done. Like, what's going on? And then he breaks it down. I mean, the guy was eating fast food for every meal. I mean, I've had alcoholics in here, and their livers are better than the guys out eating fast food nonstop.
Right.
I mean, if that doesn't tell you something, like...
Go watch Super Size Me. If you've never seen the documentary Super Size Me with Morgan Spurlock, it's like 13 years old now. It's like 2005.
Yeah, but you couldn't get a better example for that.
Fast food is just chemicals and poison.
And sugar.
And sugar.
Yeah,
they put sugar because it's a preservative.
And fake sugar, like my dad had Lou Gehrig's disease, and like I don't think Diet Coke caused it, but I know it didn't help. He would drink like a double gulp or more a day of like Diet Coke, and like, you know, it's that plus those aluminum cans. Like he had really high metal toxins in his like brain when we did like an analysis.
Right.
It's a combo of things. I don't think there's like, and I think that's why they have a problem with a lot of these diseases, figuring out what's causing it, because it's just, you've got so many factors these days. Like,
I think you touched on those two huge things with diet sodas. Number one, there's aspartame in it. There's a whole book written on how aspartame was developed by a pharmaceutical company, and Donald Rumsfeld was the CEO of that company, right? Donald Rumsfeld, our former Secretary of State, he came in as CEO of this company and could not get it passed. And I read this book 13 years ago when I was in college.
They turned it down for
years.
Until he came in.
Until he came in, and they brought somebody in on the FDA to get it approved. Because they said, listen, this is $1970 with inflation. I think they did $100 million of research back then.
Jeez.
Which is, and don't quote me on that, look it up, audience, people watching, but I think that's something, we'll just say like $500 million. There's a lot of research, and they're going to get their ROI. They were going to get aspartame approved. And they did after many, many years. But all their internal studies showed aspartame attacks fatty acids. And your brain is just a big thing of fat. It destroys your brain, and that's what all their research shows. And then the chemicals and the actual aluminum's terrible for you. So do not drink diet soda, and certainly don't drink it out of an aluminum can.
Yeah, it all adds up. It's not like it happens overnight, but then, you know, you get hooked. And they've actually found the aspartame super addictive too. So it's they have caffeine and aspartame. Like, it's dang near impossible to quit.
It's I think the most addictive thing I can say personally for me of anything I've ever done is sugar. Like any type of food or drink, alcohol, drug, whatever. Just sugar is insanely addicting for me personally. But the best part is when you start slowing down with this stuff, your body's super adaptive very quickly, and now I don't have the cravings I had. Like my whole gut biome has probably changed, and so the signals from my gut being sent to my brain, the addiction, is completely different now. It's subsided, and I don't have those cravings, which is like incredible. I feel more free, right? Freedom's everything, and if you have freedom of your mind, and you have control of your faculties, what's going on in your brain, the things that you're thinking. I can't think of a better freedom than that.
No, I mean, it adds up. I mean, when you start having sugar cravings, those other things, I mean, then they lead to like, okay, add your sugar, now you need something salty, now you need like, it's not just one thing. Your diet, you don't even think about it, but it kind of controls your day. You know,
does.
Like, you got a lot of your time invested around what you're eating, when you're eating, how you're eating, like, you know, it's a lot to it that most people just kind of go by and I'll just do whatever's easy. And it's unfortunately that's the one thing you should not be doing to eat it. Technically it's a drug too. You know, it's a chemical reaction in your body.
Right.
So it is one of the most important things you're doing on a daily basis, and it's one of the things we take the least amount of care with. And it adds up.
It definitely does.
That's why we started fasting.
I mean, real quick, Lauren and our story is I've always been interested in fasting. I used to do juice fasting like 10 years ago. Now I realize I was just dumping a bunch of sugar in my body. I was not aware of that in my early 20s. I was getting a lot of good micro and macronutrients that you can't get from eating all the food, so that's good. But I was poisoning myself with all the sugar. So then I fell out of that. But about 2 years ago, I started getting into intermittent fasting, like 12 to 16 hours. And from the research I saw, it was like do it once every 2 or 3 days or so. And I started doing that. I started getting benefits, feeling better, losing weight. But it wasn't until about 6 months ago, Peter Attia talked about how he only eats within a 4-hour window every day.
Yeah.
And he goes 20 hours. And so I said, you know what? That makes sense. And he's a really smart guy. I've been following him for years. I'll give it a try. And since we've really started doing that, and we're not super religious or crazy about it, it's been tough because we've been traveling the world. But my God, the benefits. Not even just health benefits, but what you were just talking about. Our whole lives. I have more freedom than ever, Lauren and I, because we're not constantly thinking about food and what to eat and when to eat, and having our emotions, which are really driven a lot by your primordial, like all the bacteria in your gut sending these signals, your addictions, your hormones, just it's very, very complex. But to make it succinct, I just feel more free than I ever have. And we eat once a day or twice a day, but we try to do it within a 4 or 5 hour window, and it's completely changed our lives and our health. So, anything else, Josh, that you wanted to say, like regarding MSCs, the clinic, the process, the treatment, plugs for getting down here, anything? Like,
just really the fact that, like, I guess you could put this as like experimental. Don't get me wrong. The lab's been doing it for 16 years. They don't collect the data as well as I'd like them to. They have a ton of data. They have a lot of like follow-up, all that. But like, I'm trying to work to get it more formalized, and we're working with our Dr. Alfaro on that too, to have more points to follow, because we plan to be doing this for a long time. And I started it out as something like just like we did all the hormone treatments beforehand. Like, I won't offer something I won't do myself. So I don't want people coming down thinking like, oh, here's some guy just trying to be the sales guy or that. But I'm like you, like I really believe in this. I really think it's the way to go. I don't expect people to just take my word for it. Like, I love that you've done all your research and stuff. And I'm still learning. I'm still digging into it. I'm going to keep doing that. And I'm going to keep experimenting on myself. I've probably put over 500 million stem cells in my body at this point.
They're all on. I'm going to link to the Dream Body Clinic YouTube channel. Okay, so check the description in this video. I'll have links to the whole channel, and you can literally see Josh getting all these MSCs in his body, as he just mentioned.
And I'll show you this one. I mean, I told you I'd show you my my MRI and my ultrasound.
Oh yeah.
But we've had a lot of patients that are doctors for the growth hormone side of things, and even they are skeptical about the whole the stem cell side of things. But they've all told me too. They're like, at the same time, like, keep me updated on what's going on, because as skeptical as they are, they're all kind of, these are doctors that are already kind of pushing the limit if they're like doing growth hormone and all that stuff, so they want to see where it goes. So this was my original MRI back in May. And it's in Spanish, obviously, because we're here. But see, it says the meniscopatia medial. It had a lesion on the meniscus, 2nd degree on both horns, or both sides of my right. I guess it'd be here on both sides of the meniscus, because you kind of had sort of like 2 pads there almost, as a way to describe it. And then on the lateral lesion, 3rd degree in the horn posterior, so the back part of the meniscus, and a 1st degree tear on the anterior, which would be the lower part. I also had a ligament. It didn't really say how deep or anything, just a lesion with the what's the cruzado anterior? Which ligament would that be on my knee? It would be like here or here?
It's between the bones, but it's here.
Would it be like the ACL?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the ACL.
So the ACL had a tear also. So then, do you know where my ultrasound is? It here or no?
Your ultrasound?
I don't think. I'll post a video or a picture of it. I need to do this anyway. But
And I'll update the description of this video when I get that link, or when we get that documentation. I'll put it in the description. So check the description.
yeah, so Dr. Alfaro here, she wasn't here when I did the first MRI, actually. My sister-in-law is a doctor. She's the one that reviewed that and everything.
And she was here. She got MSCs, right?
Yeah. She's also trained by the lab to do the treatments and everything, my sister-in-law. And then, but yeah, so I showed the results of the ultrasound to Dr. Alfaro, and like, what did you tell me about the results? Like,
One of the best ultrasound report I saw with my patients.
so.
And guys, a lot of reasons why the main reason I believe this is the case is because he's 35. You don't want to wait until you're coming in here in a wheelchair, or you're 50, 60, 70 years old. Your body will not respond to this as well. Real quick story, I got LASIK in my eyes when I was 24 years old. Almost everybody told me I shouldn't do that because I was too young and it's too experimental. This was almost 10 years ago, April 2009. I'm still seeing 2014 right now, better than any contacts or glasses can ever give you, because I did my research. This was almost 10 years ago, and I talked to the doctor, Dr. Beers, who does LASIK for over 10,000 people at that time 10 years ago, and has been doing it for all the San Francisco 49ers, brilliant guy. And he said, no, you want to do this while you're younger so your eyes recover. And he said I had one of the fastest recoveries of anybody. On my 1 month checkup, you're supposed to still have really, really dry eyes and have to put in a lot of drops. I was done. He was like, your eyes have recovered. You don't need to put drops in anymore. You can just live your life. And that's what I've been doing. And my 3-pointers. I started making 3-pointers because imagine that. I could see
it.
I was like, oh, wow, this is easier to shoot when I can actually see the rim.
Some depth perception. Yeah, we had about 7 people from Canada a few weeks ago, or about a month ago, that went to, actually they did in Guadalajara because we were doing for their mom, who was in her 80s with Alzheimer's, so they do a different treatment with the cardiologist on that, but they all got, IVs too, because they're like, hey, we want to be preventative, and 3 of them had eye problems, and actually they had read about different ideas that some people do see eye benefit, better vision and stuff. So they actually went to their ophthalmologist it was just recently, I think last week, and they told me not huge improvements or anything, but their ophthalmologists were pretty surprised that their eyesight was better than when they had come the last time, and the only thing different they'd done was the IV of stem cells. So it's
that sounds like a crazy side effect. I don't know if you guys want to be doing this. You might end up seeing better, and your skin might end up getting more clear. I can't remember the name of the MMA fighter. This guy was, it's on Cell Medicine's YouTube channel with Dr. Neil Wharton. He got the treatment. He's 32 years old. And he said about 4 months later, he realized his psoriasis on his head that he'd had for 6 years is just gone. And he thought about it. He's like, it had to have been the MSCs. So this is all anecdotal stuff, right? Because we're still earlier in the science. But the more research you do, the more you verify that these are real people, they're not getting paid. It's actually the opposite. They're taking a risk like I am to spend their own hard-earned money without insurance. Start adding it up. It's like this all can't. This can't all just be. This would be the biggest conspiracy of all time. And I'm a conspiracy theorist. So,